All right. Very good morning, very good evening, everyone. All right. So let's quickly recap what we covered yesterday, and then we'll continue with the today's scheduled topic. All right. So as I mentioned yesterday, whenever you have any questions, queries, you can feel free to unmute yourself here in the Zoom session, and then you can ask your questions or queries. If in case you are unable to talk, and then you can always use this uh, chat box. You can post your questions in this chat here. I can take a look on those questions. Right, so let's quickly recap what we covered. We started with the introduction about your instructor. Basically, I'm the one who is taking this particular course. So I just briefed about my overall experience and my areas of interest and my areas of expertise. And we quickly briefed about course curriculum. So I hope you might have gone through this course curriculum. So in case if you are not yet done, I'm gonna post this particular course curriculum link in the chat window here. You can take a look on that. So we briefed about course curriculum, what is included in this particular course, starting with the chapter number 1, environmental variables and setting up of your lab, network setup, installation of your database software, creation of your database, architecture part, administration, and your data file database and the backend data file management and logical and physical component of your database and ASM architecture, multi-tenant architecture, the networking, listeners, TNS, and users and profile and user management permissions rules, backups recovery, RMAN refresh, RMAN backup, level 0, level 1, Arcala backup, RMAN cloning, and different recovery scenarios, your control file missing, your data file missing, your archive logs are missing, redo logs are missing, and different ways to restore them, and a patching activity, OPatch Auto, Oracle home patching, grid home patching, database patching, and database upgradation, and your data guard, physical standby, logical standby, snapshot standby, maximum availability, maximum protection, and all those different modes and different types of your standby database, and shell scripting automation, export import, and 12C 19C new features, and AWR 8D message report, and some of the performance tuning factors, your table stats, schema stats, and your index stats, rebuild index, table move, table shrink, and your SQL profiling, execution plan, all will be covered over here. And finally, resume writing, cover letter, your Oracle certifications, some of the interview questions and answers, and finally the mock interview. Right. So totally there are 28 chapters in this particular course, and that's not limited, right? Apart from that, is there any like extra topics or some of the advanced topic wanted to be learned? We are always welcome, and then we'll take it as some of them as the extra or few extra sessions after this course. Right. So that is the second point what we discussed in details. I just wanted to brief it in today's session here. And yesterday and today are two demo sessions what we are covering. And the actual course is going to start on the 1st April 2024, that's Monday. Uh, Quickly, I can get my calendar. Give me a second. I'll get that one in a minute. Right. Meantime, anyone has any questions, queries so far? So these are the two demo sessions, 28, 24, Thursday, Friday, yesterday, and today are two demo sessions, and followed by we'll be starting our actual course on 1st of April, Monday. Timing is going to be same, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And in Eastern time zone, it will be 10:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. in the midnight. And the weekdays batch, Monday to Friday, 35 days is a course duration. And course fees is going to be 10,000 rupees. That is 125 US dollar. And the mode of training is going to be live via Zoom session, online live classes on the Zoom session. And it is of 19C Oracle version what we are covering in this course. And if you're unable to join this particular batch, you always refer my blog, malik034blogspot.com, upcoming batch schedule. So which will give you when is the next course or when is the next batch is going to be scheduled. So I'm gonna update once this class starts Monday. I'm gonna update the new timings for the next batch. You can always refer that one. Right. So as we talked yesterday, once the students register for the course after making a payment, so we'll be getting access on the course material where you will be having your PPTs, workbook, lab exercise, and so many other things on that particular course material. In the other information, you will be having that interview questions, answers, automation scripts, and your softwares and DBA tools, and so many other stuffs in this second link. And the third link, the previous batch recordings, the reason behind that is you can well in advance watch those recordings, be prepared for the live classes so that you can ask many questions and make the session interactive. So you'll be getting access on the previous batch recordings once you make a payment and register for the course. And at the same time, everyday sessions will be recorded and uploaded to Google Drive. You can watch them if you're unable to catch up the things, and you can revisit them, rewatch them. And if you have any questions, queries, you can always post it in our WhatsApp group. So once we start the regular classes on 1st of April 2024, so we'll be sharing the new Zoom links or the Webex link in our WhatsApp group. So we'll be using that link for regular classes. So this Zoom link, whatever we're using it now, it is only for the demo session. It will be valid for till today. And then, so all the registered student part of the dedicated WhatsApp group. So all the communications, any questions, queries, or wherever you stuck on the setup or any issues, or if you're unable to understand any of the topic, you can always use our WhatsApp group for any communication. You can post your any questions, queries. We will be there to help you and then connect with you one-to-one and then unblock you and will solve your whatever the concerns or queries you have it or wherever you are stuck. Right, with that, other things what we discussed is the prerequisites. So very important. So who can all attend this course? Anyone can attend. That's what we talked, because this course is formed in such a way that it start from the basics and it's gonna go till advanced level. So if you're a fresher or having 1 or 2 years of experience in DBA field, or you're having 10 years or 15 years of experience in DBA field, anyone can attend this course, because the course content or course curriculum is formed. As a DBA, if I join for any organization, you should be able to perform all the activities in that organization. So based upon my 15 years of experience, I formed this course, and this course is suitable for anyone from the beginner till advanced level. So you should be knowing your Windows and Linux basics and SQL basics so that you can catch up the things and you will be in flow with whatever I'm teaching. If you don't know these things, first you need to put some extra effort along with this course. You need to learn some basics, Linux commanding, basics of SQL, so that you can catch up the things and you'll be in sync with me whenever I'm teaching. So that you have to be like put some extra effort and understand those basic concepts first along with this course. So apart from that, the hardware requirement, you should have minimum 10 GB RAM in your laptop and 100 GB SSD hard disk so that you can set up your own lab and practice it on that. So if you don't have this lab hardware setup, so you'll not be able to set up a lab, and whatever your uh, register for this course, you will be able to listen whatever I am teaching. You will be able to see whatever I am demonstrating, but you will not be able to do a hands-on until you set up your own lab. So hardware is must mandatory in order to do your own lab setup and do a practice. Right, so that's what we discussed in our yesterday session, and followed by few of the concept what we discussed in our yesterday session. Uh, Rack versus standalone, database standalone versus rack. What are the pros and cons? What are the advantages and disadvantages? What we discussed, and what are the type of databases? What we discussed, and followed by my database or instance startup sequence. So again, whomever are new to this particular DBA field, you might be still having question on what is database, what is instance. So we'll be covering in detail about what is database, what is instance, and you might be having a question about yesterday's topic, what is SP file, what is control file, what is data files, what are read log files. So all will be covered in our regular classes in details. And then we understood difference between your standalone versus Oracle restart. So Oracle restart is with ASM and standalone is without ASM. So that's what we did, what we understood yesterday. And then, as I said, after my yesterday session, we got few more students registered. All of them are part of WhatsApp group. So at any reason, any cost, like if you are interested and you want to enroll for this particular course, you can always feel free to reach out to me on my WhatsApp number, or you can reach out to me on my email or cell number. Again, I'm gonna post it over in the chat. You can take a note of that, and then I can further guide you through for registration and then the payment process. All right, I'll take a minute here. I'll pause for a minute if anyone has any questions, queries so far before I continue with the further topics, whatever scheduled for today.
Hi, Malik. Are you able to hear?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, I'm new to this Oracle database. Will be covered like everything related to the terms which are coming in the course itself. Like basic, you told right?
Right,
Instance means database means everything.
right. That's correct.
That is from each and everything you have to explain.
Right, right. That's
You
correct.
got my point?
That's correct. That's what I mentioned
From
as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
just a demo sessions. It's a high level overview.
Actually,
What we're
Actually,
covering.
I'm worked as like non-IT, so I want to pursue like IT DBA field. So that's why the
Got it.
terms which are hearing here is like new to me.
And then,
So
yeah, and then apart from that, what I have is there are already some pre-recorded sessions where
okay,
um, it's only helpful for some of the basics, like it's only helpful for all the new who are new to IT, who are coming from non-IT background to IT background. So
okay,
they can, I'm gonna grant access on them, so they can pretty much go and then watch the basic recordings so that
okay.
they can understand easily without any issue.
Okay, okay, thanks, Michael. That is the main thing. Yesterday I thought of asking. Anyway,
Yeah,
today I can ask you such
got it,
questions. That's
got
it.
it, understand. Yeah,
Meanwhile, one more question. If suppose you are explaining in the live demo session, if at that point, if I'm not able to understand any concept, in that way, can I ask questions
you
like,
can
can you
ask.
re-explain?
You can ask anytime, anywhere, and also if you're not able to catch up the things, no worries. You can go back and watch the recordings once again, and still you're not able to understand. You can always use our WhatsApp group. We have a dedicated WhatsApp group for only the registered students, so you can ask any
Okay.
questions over there, and then we'll
Mhm.
connect with you, and then
No,
we'll answer.
my question is like, if suppose you are explaining in the live itself,
Right.
I'm not able to understand that particular concept. At that moment, can you re-explain
Yes.
such things
Yeah, that's correct.
instead of using WhatsApp? That is the thing main question I want to ask.
Right, right. Yeah, whenever you miss the concept or flow, you can always ask that, like, uh, I can able to re-explain it, or again, if you did not understand, you can go back and
Okay,
watch the recording.
sure, sure.
All right.
Thanks.
Right. Let's now continue. If no one has any questions, queries, um, I can continue with the further topic. Let's say, um, I'll just simply talk about now connectivity. So, connectivity in the sense, how can I connect to my database? I have a database. Let's say, let me get my, okay, let's say I have a server. Uh, let's say I have my own data center. Maybe any client will be having their own data center anywhere in the world. Maybe London or New York or Washington DC or whichever location they are physically, the data center is located over there, or even they don't have any physical data center. Their all servers are coming from the cloud. So let's say my data center is in London. So my data center is London. So I will ask my Linux admin to provide a Linux server. So my Linux admin is going to install a server in the data center or in the cloud. So let's say this is my data center, one of the server, Oracle Lab 1. So we will create server and he will define the host name Oracle Lab 1. He will define IP address 192.168.1.101, whatever the IP address. So once he set up a server, like your Linux admin setup server, any Linux server, it may be um, Linux, or it may be AIX, or it may be Windows, or it may be Ubuntu, or it may be SUSE, or anything. There are so many OS flavors in the market. Based upon your organization, he's going to set up the server, and this is your host name and this is your IP address. And then he's going to create username Malik. Inside that, he's going to create Malik user and Malik password for him. And inside that, he can create a root user and he can provide a root password. Or inside that, he can create any user, John, and he can create his password. Or he can create your own Oracle user and he can provide his password. So that's a Linux admin job. Linux admin is going to create or set up a server in the data center, and then he will give a credentials. And then we are going to use a putty session. So we, as a DBA, we access this particular Linux data center, which is under London data center or New York or wherever it is. So as a DBA, we use DBA. We use putty session. Usually we use putty or mobile extreme. So these are the terminals. These are the softwares. We are going to install them in our laptop, and via this putty or mobile extreme terminal softwares. With help of that, uh, we use this putty or mobile extreme software, or we can say terminals, to access those servers. So whatever this server or Linux admin has set up, we are going to access them using this putty or mobile extreme. So right now, whatever I am connected here, this is my mobile extreme black screen, whatever you're seeing here. So I have this Oracle Lab 1. Maybe this lab is in London. And I have this Oracle Lab 2. Maybe this lab is in New York. I have this particular node 1, maybe this lab is in somewhere. So similarly, like I'm gonna connect here, new session, and then I can SSH, I can give that IP address or the host name, whatever the Linux admin has given. Let's say, so for example, this is my IP address or the host name and the username, whatever the username I want, I can connect it. So once I connect, so I'll be into that particular server. So then my DBA job will start. So your Linux admin will set up a lab for you. Once he set up a lab, and then a DBA we will start with the our installation and setup. So yesterday what we understood, the topic number 5th, installation. So we understood installation of standalone without ASM and standalone with ASM. So we talked about this in yesterday's topic, installation. So let's say again, if I want to bring those things, the different types of installation will be here, right? Right. Standalone without ASM and standalone with ASM. So this is our installation, what we did, what we understood yesterday. Okay, I can put this one at the top. Right, we understood standalone versus rack, types of databases, and database and instance startup sequence, difference between standalone without ASM, standalone with ASM, and the installation type. Standalone without ASM will install Oracle Home and will create a database. And standalone with ASM will download ASM, install your ASM first, and create your ASM storage and install your Oracle software and create your database. That's our typical installation. So once we're done with this installation, our next step will be connectivity. So how we can connect to our database. So the connectivity before that, like we have done with this installation, how we done with this installation with help of Linux admin. Linux admin has created the server. He given a credential to us, and then we went ahead with the installation. So let's say in my particular lab one here. So lab one, as I said, it will be having this 3 steps here. Sorry, 2 steps. Lab one will be having download Oracle software and install your Oracle Home. So here we downloaded and installed our Oracle software under user and app, Oracle product 19C DB Home 1. So this is the path where we installed that 19C software, Oracle software. So these are the software binaries. So this is my software where I have installed it, my 19C database software. On top of this database software, I have created this DevDB. So I can say ps-ef grep smon. So this is my DevDB, which is running under this particular Oracle Home. I'll just copy this one here. Give me a second. Right, so I downloaded software, database software, and I installed on this particular directory on that lab one. And then I have created this DevDB database on top of that particular Oracle Home. That is for standalone with ASM, where your database is running. Sorry, without ASM, where your database is running under file system. We already showed you yesterday how that file system looks like if it is running under a file system. All your database files are where they're located. That's all under your OS storage. So other setup is your standalone with ASM. This is one setup, and the other setup is here. So again, same concept. Your Linux admin will set up a server and then he will provide it. So for this particular standalone without ASM, we use Oracle Lab 1. Again, similarly, your Linux admin will provide another server. Let's say it is about Oracle Lab 2 with a different IP address. And then as a DBA, we will connect to that server. So here is a Lab 2 server. And then in this particular server, what we have downloaded ASM software and installed ASM home. So if I do cd u01 app 19c grid, so this is the location ls. So this is the ASM software I have installed on this directory. So if I do ps-ef grep smon, and you can see plus ASM. Anything ASM will start with always plus ASM, plus your ASM storage. Everything is start with a plus here. So ASM software is installed and your ASM is installed and a disk group, because ASM is a storage, automatic storage management. Instead of OS storage, we are using ASM storage, Oracle provided storage, to keep my database related files inside that. So in order to see that ASM storage, so as we saw yesterday here, where we saw that one. Okay, here. So my SP file system start with the U01, that's the file system database, Oracle Lab 1. This is plus data. And my control file for the file system start with the slash U01, whereas my ASM database, the testdb and lab 2, plus data and plus record. These are your ASM storage. Storage are nothing but your disk groups. So how can I access those disk groups? I need to set my environment variable to ASM plus ASM1 ASM CMD. That is your ASM command line to see your or check your ASM storage. So LSDG is your list disk group. So it will list your disk group. We have a data disk group, we have a record disk group, and we have this OCR disk group. So if I want to check these files, plus data testdb control file, I can go to this location, cd, go into that, and ls-l. So you can see those control file, whatever the control file is here. So you can see that one. So this is your ASM storage. The moment you do LSDG list disk group, they're going to tell you what are the current your disk group you have configured. That's your ASM storage, because your data is going to be reside under that. And that's your ASM disk group. We have created this one. Again, this is a part of our regular course where we do set up this ASM, where we do set up this all the disk groups in our regular classes. Right, that is done. As a DBA, I have done this one, and I install ASM. I have created ASM disk groups, and then now I have to install Oracle Home, and I have to create my database. So my Oracle Home is same thing. I have installed under user and app Oracle product 19c DB Home. So this is my location where I installed my database software. And similarly, what we did here on the Oracle Lab 1. This is the location. This is a location in your server. You can install wherever you want your database software. So we installed a database software here. On top of the database software, we have created test database here. Right, here is your test database running on top of that Oracle software. Right, that is a simple, easy way to understand how, as a DBA, we will go ahead with the installation and setup and configuration. Fair enough. We have done our setup, everything working fine. Now coming back, it's a connectivity. How to connect to database. How to connect to database, that's a question. That's the topic what we are talking here. So because of that topic, to understand how to connect to database, we have to understand how we did a setup. We understood now how we did lab 1 and lab 2, how we created a DB database on lab 1 and testdb database on lab 2. Fair enough, we have done the setup. Now let's say, how can I connect to my database? Let's say I logged into Oracle Lab 1 and you need to, as a DBA, like there are two ways to connectivity. How DBA connect to database, how application user or end user connect to database remotely. So how DBA we connect to database, how application user or the end user they connect to my database. The two different concept. Let's say this is my lab one and where my DBA database is. I did a setup. This is my DBA database. And I have this lab 2 where my test DB database. I only did a setup here. And then we know this server access. My Linux admin has given access on this server. We directly connect to this Linux server and then we connect to our database. We don't need of any special privilege or permission. So let's say I am with a root user connected to lab 1. I will go and then run this ps-f grep smon. I'll see what is my database name. That's a database name or the instance name. DevDB is my database or database instance name, which is running with the Oracle user. So from the root user, I will switch to Oracle user, the respective owner. Oracle is the owner for that DevDB database. So we logged into Oracle switch user. SU means switch user Oracle. So we logged into Oracle user on this lab 1. So now I want to connect to this DevDB. So I have to run this .inv. Dot space .inv. It will ask what is your Oracle SID. My Oracle SID is devdb, what we did the setup. So you can verify using this env grep capital Ora. That's going to tell you SID is devdb, Oracle base, Oracle home. Oracle home is that location where we installed our Oracle software. So after that, we're going to use SQL plus slash as this DBA. So that's it. So as a DBA, we are able to connect to a database. It's a quite simple. Fair enough. So there are again there's so many concepts why we use SQL plus SSDBA. That's called OS authentication. We'll discuss in our regular classes. But for now, just to make it understand, so this is easiest way a DBA can connect to database. First log into that server and understand what database name or what instance name, who is the owner, and log into that particular owner and then run this .env and give that SID name, whatever you're seeing here. We're going to set the environment to that particular database SID, Oracle base, Oracle home. Use SQL plus SSDBA to connect to your database. Fair enough, fine. Now let's understand how application team is going to connect. Let's say this is my lab 1, lab 2. Let's say this particular database is Amazon.com. Whatever the retail, we like thousands of billions of users who will log into Amazon.com to do some business or shopping. Let's say I'll quickly open that. Right, I can log in here. So let's say this is your Amazon.com, the Amazon production database. Let's say this is your Walmart.com or the Flipkart.com. So these are your production database. How I'm able to access? Like if I want to log in here, like I can say I already logged in over here. How I'm able to log in? How can I able to access this particular database? So that's the different concept here. How application users or the end users, they're going to connect to my database remotely. So for this one, let's say Amazon.com only. So this DBA database, they will be having app server here. So this app server will be done with Apache, Tomcat or middleware or whatever the EBS or whatever the application they installed here. So whatever that 1 billion users, like I am the one user here, Malik user and Malik password. So again, you might have create your own login on that particular Amazon site here. So you can log in, you can create your own account with your Gmail ID or whatever it is. So that is also there. So like John and his username, and even user one and his password. So there will be 1 billions of user who can connect to Amazon site. So those are called application users. So once they connect to application from the application side, we as a DBA, we will create one application user here. So app user one. So let's say app user, we will create that username on the database. We will give, like there are the application DBAs here. So there's the application team who will manage this application server. So inside my database, I'm going to create one application user and then application user password. And then we will share this user credential to my application team. So those application team uses that username and password in their application side, application user, and then that's it. So they're going to configure their application. Whatever this 1 billion user, they will log into their website, amazon.com, and all their username and passwords will be validated in the application server and they will be connected to this app server. And the moment they access any of the product, so internally they're going
Excuse
to
me,
use,
sir. Excuse me, sir.
give me a second. So whatever those 1 billion users, they're going to log in with their username and password. Those all users are part of application server. And Malik is a user. I logged in and that is my application username and password. And the moment I access any of the product, all the products are coming from the database. So internally, my request will go with this application user, and then I can fetch the details, whatever I need it from the Amazon site. Same thing, John is the one who connected to that Amazon.com site and with his username and password. So his user request comes to application server, and from the application server backend, where application is going to use same application user and application password which is available in the database to query or communicate. So the meaning here is the communication between the database and the application server is only one user. That user is at your database side. Database side, as a DBA, I will create a username and password and then I'll give it to this application team. Those application team will configure their application on the application server with that username and provided username and password by the DBA. And then whomever that end users, whoever connect to that application, so those are like application side passwords. But once they come to application at the backend, the single user will be used to access my database. Right? That is the overall our architecture, how we're gonna go. This is called three-tier architecture. So this is a backend layer or database layer, and this is your apps layer or application layer or Apache Tomcat layer, and this is the front end web UI or mobile device where the end users will be accessing the our product or the website. Right? Somebody has a question?
Yeah, Malik, I have a question here. So, what are the details that are required to connect to a database
That's
as
uh
application user?
that's next point I'm gonna explain it here.
Sir,
Okay.
sir, can I ask one question, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, actually, in this concept, I'm sorry to ask this question. Actually, totally confusing about end user and application user and DB user.
Mm-hmm.
So, can this concept will be discussed deeply in while we are going to the classes,
Yep.
or
Yeah,
can
that's
you
correct.
clear out here?
That's correct. We'll discuss in details in our regular classes.
Okay, sir. Fine.
All right. So now let's say application server is ready, and let's say I'm just giving a brief example here. Lab 2 is the application server, and our lab 1 is my database server. I'm giving a hypothetical example here. So lab 1 is my actual database server, where my DB is running. Lab 2, let's assume for now, lab 2 is again a database server. Let's say lab 2 is our application server. So I need to access this DB database from this lab 2. So very first thing, I need to create a user inside my lab 1. Let's say I can create as a DBA, I can create user app underscore user identified by app underscore user. So as a DBA, I have created this application user in this particular lab 1. Let's give some permission, grant create. So again, don't worry about these commands. We are going to explain in our regular classes. Create session to app user. Right now, we have created application user as a DBA. I have created application user here on my database app underscore user and then his password. So we have given it to application team. And now application team has to connect from this lab 2 to lab 1. That is called your remote connection. So whatever DBA we use SQL plus SSD DBA, that's not a remote connection. That's locally, we are on that lab 1 server. We have connected to our database using SQL plus SSD DBA. But now application team has to connect from the lab 2, from the remote server, right? So they have to go to this lab 2. They have to connect like this, SQL plus whatever this app user and whatever this app's password at the rate something called devdb. So they're going to use SQL plus is a tool to connect to database. You can use a Toad or developer or any application JDBC or ODBC, any of the connection tool or the string. Connect using this application user, application password, and which database you want to connect. That's your TNS alias, devdb. So now this connection is called as a remote connection. From the lab to this application team is able to access my database. Let's say if I execute this one, I'm able to connect to database. Even though I am on lab 2, give me a second, guys. Well, sorry for that. So this now application team is able to connect to my devdb database. Even though they are in lab 2, they can able to connect to my devdb database. That's called your remote connection. So how it is possible, how it is established here? So for that, again, we have a different concept called listeners and TNS. You need to understand that listeners and TNS concept. How that listeners and TNS connections works. Let's go to this slide here. So your application user and application password along with the TNS details. So application user has to give this TNS details. This TNS details is nothing but whatever we have given here. The application team, whatever it is given here, TNS details. That TNS details is nothing but it consists of where is your database located, what's your database name, and which port it is listening, and all those things. Let's say if I go to network admin, cat TNS. So this is my TNS details. Your application team should have application username, application password, followed by your TNS details. So this is what my TNS details is devdb. So this TNS details is nothing but which has on which server This is my Oracle Lab 1, on which server my DBDB database is running, on which port my DBDB database is listening. 1521 is the port my database is listening, and on which protocol your DBDB database is running. TCP protocol 1521 port, and Oracle Lab 1 server, and DBDB is my database server database name. So once these details, your application team has it, username, password, and this TNS details, he can able to connect to my database. So my application team is connecting using application username, application password with the TNS details. Once that users pass that details, so whatever this user is doing here, SQL plus application user, application password, and add that TNS details. The moment he enters, he connects, he is able to connect. How he is able to connect? Because we have a listener on the Oracle server where you install your Oracle software. There we have something called listener. That listener will take that incoming request, whatever that username, password, and TNS details, the listener will take that, and then the listener will establish the connection to my database instance with the help of this server process. And my listener will quickly validate whether that provided username and password is correct, whether the TNS details are correct. Once my listeners validate all those details, if everything is correct, my listener will come back. Okay, boss, you are a valid user, and go ahead and then connect to my database. So that user, he will directly connect to my database server. So then he can query whatever he wants, select query, update query, insert query, whatever. He will be start continuing with this transaction. That's the first step. Listener is a service which will be running under your server where you install your database. That listener is the one which is responsible for taking that all the incoming user request, validate those users, whether that is a valid user, the username and password is correct, the TNS is correct. Once the listener validates, and listener allow that user to directly connect to my database instance, and then proceed further with whatever the transaction he want to do it.
Malik, listener is part of a instance or it is going to
One
be a part of the app server?
separate, it is on the separate on our database server. Your listener will be running on your database server. PS-EF grep TNS. So you have your listener here on Oracle Lab 1 where this service will be running. The moment you create your database, DBDB database, after that you have to create this particular listener. So now I'm gonna stop this listener. Let's exit from this application connection from lab 2. I'm going to stop this listener, lsnrctl, stop listener. So your listener is stopped now. If I do ps-af grep tns, and I don't have this listener. So this listener is stopped. Now let's try to connect to your SQL plus app user, and DBDB database. It says no listener. So none of the listener, none of the end users or application user is able to connect to my database, because on the server side, my listener is down. So the user is trying to connect with the username, app password, and the TNA details. All the details are correct, but nobody is to receive that connection. My listener itself is down. And this is the DBA issue. So as a DBA, our job is to make sure that listener is always available 24/7, and my database instance is available 24/7. My database available 24/7. So as a DBA, we need to make sure that your listener, your database instance, and your database, all these three components are available 24/7 support, so that end users or application users can able to connect to my database at any given point of time. If any one of these is not available, it's a DBA issue. DBA is not doing his monitoring or his regular activities. Right, so again, I can start my listener back.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
in this architecture,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you're saying that some server process, you are saying that.
Right.
Actually, what is here? How can I assume, sir? Here, server process means
It's a
the
process in your Linux server. Anything you do, any activity on server, whatever activity I'm doing on my Windows, it is one process is started for that. The moment I open my Note Paint program here, one process will start in my Windows server. Similarly, whatever activity we do in a Linux server, one process will start it. That process is called server process. That's the name Oracle has given that. So what that means, let's say, what I can do quickly to understand you, what is that server process? ps-f grep devdb. Devdb is my database on this Oracle Lab 1. So this particular devdb, in order to run, there will be hundreds of process will be get started. So right now, these are the devdb process are started here. So I can count it, how many of that WCL, it's a count. So it has a 59 process are started here on this particular Linux server. These are the process and these are the process IDs. A 59 process are started. So now I started my listener here. My listener is running. So now the moment end user connects, let's say I'll try to connect. The moment I connect to my database, what happens? The same thing. Listener will take that connection, validate that user, and establish the connection to my database. One server process will start. Server process means that's the name Oracle has given. At the simple layman term, one OS process will get started. So the moment I connect this one, the application user is able to connect. And if I go back to my database side, check the same command. So this count OS level process will be get increased. It becomes 60. So that is your process. The fancy name what Oracle has given, server process. Basically, underlying fact is one OS process is established to handle that incoming connection. The moment
Sir,
that user exits, and the process will go out now.
sir,
Back to
here
59.
server process, it is 59, 60, 61, like this it is creating.
Right.
You are saying that this is consuming a RAM part, or it is consuming
Right.
from
Again, that is a memory part.
some internal processor part.
Any process to run, that's a memory will be consumed from your database. At the time of your database creation, it's just like whatever I explained here, a create database. I just told you download the software, a create database. Create database means what? You are going to allocate memory. The moment you allocate memory, all these process are going to use the memory from that whatever you allocated at the time of your database creation.
Process and session are same.
Session is at your database side. Database side, we call it as one user connected to my database. That's the one session. That session at the backend uses OS level process.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so that is a database connection. So as a DBA, we simply use SQL plus / assist DBA to connect to our database. That's it. Like whatever I showed here. Set the environment, use SQL plus assist DBA. I'm able to connect to my database without any listeners, TNS, no password, no username, because I'm already on the server. I'm already with Oracle user. I can use SQL plus / assist DBA. It's going to connect. But whereas application users or the end users or the business users, they are going to use the application user what we created and shared with the application team where they configured in their application server.
Malik, one question. So, for
Yeah.
example, multiple sessions can be created using a single user. So, for example, I can
Right.
connect to that. We
Right.
can do it, right?
We can do that.
So, in that case, from the database, if we see the number of sessions, it will be a single session. It will show
One user,
or
one session.
one user, one session. But
Right.
multiple say no. So, for example, if I try to log
Like
into the
one
database.
user means one session you connect, one process will start at OS. Again, you take one more session and connect, one more session will be started with that. You connect 100 users, 100 session will be 100 process will be started at OS level
No,
with the same
I'm not
user.
talking about the user level. I'm talking, say, for example, from lab 1, you connected using user 1, right?
Right.
So, for example, if I take another Linux system and try to connect using the same user,
Right. One more OS process will get started.
one more OS process will be started. Okay.
Right. All right. So that is
And
for
as
the
a separate
connectivity.
session, as a separate session, right?
Yes. Database level, it's a separate session. OS level, that's a separate process.
Okay.
You can 100 users with the same username, they'll connect to my database. 100 session at my database side, 100 OS process at my OS side. Even though all are using the same username and password, individually consider the different session and different process.
Sir, you said user authentication process, right? Earlier architecture.
Right. Listener will do that one. Listener will verify whether that username is correct, that password is
Yeah.
correct, that
Sir,
TNT is correct.
from input side, user can send his details.
Right.
That details it is syncing with which
All
details already existed inside of the database.
all the details. Your database, everything
No.
is available with the username, password, and all the TNT details.
What I'm saying is, for example, we give the one username and one password we are giving.
Where is that username and password?
Some you said that some input values we are giving, some user process is there. There is some information we are passing from our side.
What are the information you're passing to connect your database?
Uh,
To connect to database, you're gonna use username, you're gonna give
okay,
password, you're gonna
okay.
give TNT details. Where is this username?
This username in database.
Database. So already all the username is in database, password is in database, and TNT
Yeah.
details in database. And that's
Mhm.
where the user connects. The listener will take that connections and validate whether whatever the user given details are correct or wrong. If the correct, then you listener will allow to connect to database. If anything is
Okay.
wrong, listener will stop him there only. Let's say in
Okay.
example here, I can give wrong password. User name is
Mhm.
correct. User password is user1111. Here the username is wrong. User password is wrong, and he's not able to connect to my database. Listener straight away tells, boss, you're using a wrong username and wrong password. Check it.
Mhm. Okay.
Great. Let's take a few more topic, the architecture part quickly. Basics, I'm going to take a few things here, not in depth. So database architecture, one of the most common questions in most of the interview questions. Can you brief or can you explain about a database architecture? The moment they say a database architecture, so our answer should be database architecture is made up of, let's say, instance plus database. A database architecture is a combination of instance and a database. So your instance is a logical structure, and then your database is a physical structure. So somebody asked what is database architecture, or can you brief database architecture? So our answer should be my database architecture or Oracle database architecture is a combination of instance plus database. Instance is a logical structure, database is a physical structure. So this instance, the logical structure, which is made up of memory plus background process. So your instance is made up of memory and background process, and your database, as I said, it's a physical structure. It's a backend storage files or storage structure. Storage structure or the backend storage files, or you can say end user file or data. So your actual end user data or the end user of files, or the storage structure, or the storage files, or your actual database, and your instance is the memory and background process. So again, instance is the memory and background process. There's so many things. If you keep exploring, it will be like too many things. Again, if I talk about a memory is a combination of SGA plus PGA. SGA is a system global area or shared global area. PGA is a program global area or private global area. SGA, you can say system or shared global area. PGA is private or program global area. So again, if you divide further, your SGA internally has shared pool, large pool, Java pool, stream pool, DB buffer cache, and redo buffer cache, and again furthermore sub memory component. So many things. And again, PGA, if you talk about memory component, that PGA internally has your UGA, stack space, and sort area, temp area, bitmap or bit tree. So many other sub memory component. That is what your memory. Memory is a combination of SGA and PGA. Again, SGA has so many sub memory component, and again PGA has so many sub component. That is in the instance a memory level. That's a part of your memory is part of SGA and PGA. Now background process. In the background process,
Sir, there is some small doubt. It
give
is
me a
memory
second.
plus. Yeah.
Give me a second. Mandatory and non-mandatory. So mandatory background process and non-mandatory background process. So mandatory background process are your SMON, PMON, DB writer, log writer, and your checkpointer. And non-mandatory background process are your recover, archiver, MON, job queue, so many other background process. So in simple understanding, if somebody asked you what is my database architecture, my database architecture is a combination of instance, that's a logical structure, plus database, that's a physical structure. So my instance, which is a logical structure, that instance is made up of memory and background process. So my database is a physical structure, that's a backend files or the storage files for my database. So in case of instance is the memory and background process. And coming to that memory is a combination of SGA and PGA. SGA is a system or shared global area. PGA is a program or private global area. And in the SGA again, there are so many subcomponents: shared pool, large pool, Java pool, stream pool, database buffer cache, redo buffer cache, and so on. A PGA again has so many sub-memory component. Under PGA, you can see UGA, stack space, sort area, bitmap area, temp area, bit tree area, and so many other memory component. That is one component of your instance memory. Another component is your background process. Background process is mandatory and non-mandatory. Mandatory are your SMON, PMON, debrider, log writer, checkpointer, and non-mandatory are recoverer, archiver, and your MON, job queue process, and etc. There are so many other hundreds of background process. Right? That is your instance. That is your instance, which is the logical structure. Whatever we talked about, instance is logical structure. When you talk about a database, which is a physical structure, that's nothing but your backend, your data files. So backend data files includes your system data file, your sysocs data file, your user data file, your temp data file, your undo data file, so many data files, your apps data files, so many other files. So that is your answer. If somebody asked you, can you brief or can you explain about database architecture? Our answer should be database architecture is a combination of instance and the database. Instance is a logical structure, database is a physical structure. That instance is made up of a memory and the background process. That memory is made up of SGA and PGA, and that SGA and PGA is internally made up of so many subcomponents: shared pool, large pool, Java pool, stream pool, database buffer cache, and log buffer cache. Right? So, and then PGA is your private global area. Again, that is a memory component made up of your sort area, bitmap area, bit tree area, user global area, so many other things. And the background process are mandatory and non-mandatory. Mandatory are smon, pmon, liberator, log writer, checkpointer, and non-mandatory are your archiver, recoverer, mmon, and job queue, and so many other processes. So that is your definition for the instance. And definition for the data files. Data files are actual physical files or the physical structure on my storage side, which are like your data file, which are system, sysocs, undo, user, temp, apps related files, and so many other things. Right? Any questions here on the architecture part?
Yeah, Malik, what is the difference between user data files and apps data files?
User data file is same as app data files. If you want to use all into your user data files, keep it over there. Or if you want to have a separate application user, EBS is one application, I can keep it in separate apps. And OBI is a separate, I can keep it in separate app. User is a default data file. You can have your all the application related data into user, or you can have a separate data file for your application specific data files.
Is this file is going to be auto-generated or we have to manually generate all these files?
These are auto generated.
Okay.
All right. So
And
that is
we'll be talking more about that SPA and PGA, right? Right? Means like
that
shared pool, large pool,
we are
all
not
those things.
talked about anything. It's a overall definition I given here. Once you go with the regular classes, each and every topic or every component will be discussed. What's the use? Why we need it? Again, this is your entire database architecture. If somebody asked, you have to explain in this manner. And in the interview, they will ask you what is SMON, what is PMON, what's log writer, what's the job of that, what is my database buffer cache, why we need it, what is a shared pool, why we need it. And inside again shared pool, you have so many subcomponent. You have a data dictionary cache and you have a library cache inside that shared pool. And in interview, they may ask what is use of shared pool, what's the use of large pool, what's the use of my PGA. So you have to deep dive, understand each of these component in details, because architecture is one of the foundation for any DBS. Any given point of time, if somebody asks you, can you explain about database architecture? You should be able to explain about whatever I said so far. All right. So that's a quick update on the architecture.
Sir, one small doubt. The logical structure is nothing but this memory and background process, right?
Right. Logical structure, nothing but we cannot physically see them. It may be process, it may be memory. I cannot see the RAM on this server. If you say me, show me where is the RAM, I cannot see it. And if you say where is my database, where is my data file, I can go and then see my data files. Again, I showed you here, these are my data files. Physically, I can go to that location and I can see that one. Is that here? Physically, I can go to that location and then I can see all the data files. As a DBA, I can physically see the files. That's your a physical structure. So database are nothing but your actual data files, where physical structure, where you can go to that location. It may be your ASM storage or the OS file system storage. You can go to that location and see those files. And logical structure is not a physical structure or physical files where it's a virtual. Your memory is a virtualized, like you cannot physically see that, but you can see how much memory it is allocated for SGA and what are the background process you can see that. So these all are your background process. Whatever I use PS-F grep DevDB. So PMON is one background process, mandatory one. And if you go further down, whatever the mandatory background process, DB, log writer, your DB writer, your checkpointer, your SMON, these are the mandatory background process for my database. And other than mandatory background process, you have all this like non-mandatory or whatever I told. One example is your MON and whatever archiver, whatever your recoverer. So those are like so many non-mandatory background process here. There'll be hundreds of background processes for each database or each instance to operate. And there are so many memory component inside your database. You can connect to that database and explore all of them. Connect to your database, show parameter SGA underscore target. So this is your SGA, the memory 3 GB what we set for the database. So PG aggregate limit and PG aggregate target. So we have a 2 GB PGA set for this particular database. And again, inside SGA, you have dynamic memory component. If you can query that inside SGA, whatever the subcomponent, all those memory usage will be get it. Inside PGA, all this memory usage, you can get it by running the dynamic memory component. And whatever this background process, mandatory and non-mandatory background process, that's the OS level process. So you can exit and run the same query. PSFNEF grep, your database name, you can see all those background process. Liberator, log writer, checkpointer, SMON and PMON, and these are like your non-mandatory one.
Sir?
Yep.
Could you show me 19C architectural diagram of database?
There's
You
nothing called
explained all these instance and database and all memory related parameters.
This is your core fundamental architecture for your database 6i, 7i, 8i, 9i, 10G, 11G, 12C, your 18C, 19C, 21C, 23C. This is your fundamental architecture for your database. Whatever I explained, whatever I'm showing here.
Just a minute, sir. Here,
Maybe what is your, no, you don't worry about the architecture part. Is there any questions about whatever I explained so far? Right? If you have anything, just ask me, I can clarify. The moment you see diagram and try to understand yourself, you don't get it. What is, because this diagram created by me, I know what flow I need to explain and then way to explain. And moment you see what is this log and
in coming classes, you are explaining this architecture internally, what actually happening, right, sir?
Right. That's correct. All right. So
I have one question here. So if someone will kill any background process, so what will happen to the database?
That's what
And
you need to that's what you need to understand here. I said background process. Background process are what? In the background process, you have mandatory background process. Mandatory meaning your SMON, PMON, debrighter, log writer, checkpointer. These are the mandatory background process. This process has to be up and running at any given point of time. Any of these processes are killed, your database instance will go down. Database instance will go down means your database instance will be down. Nobody can able to access your database. Your data files cannot be accessed. So there are non-mandatory background process, recoverer, archiver, M1. If you kill any one of that, no worries. Automatically those processes will get started.
okay, thank you.
PSFNEF grep SMON. SMON is one mandatory background process. PMON. PMON is one mandatory background process. Kill -9. the moment I kill this pmon or kill this smon, your database is gone, right? Your database completely went down. So if as a DBA, if I try to connect, as I explained yesterday, connected to idle instance, your database is down. So I need to start my database.
Malik, so if it is a ASM database instance, so in that case, this petal process, it is not going to restart automatically.
I explained yesterday, right? That's one of the restart capability. I showed the demo also yesterday. In lab
Yes.
2, you can go and kill any process. Your ASM will bring it up. That's the
Oh,
capability of
this one,
restart.
this one is lab one. Okay, without ASM.
Right. So now your database is back online. And now you can see your SMON, PMON, everything is back online. So instead of SMON, you can kill any other process. DevDB. So let's take, these are like non-mandatory one. Let's take this process. So I can kill this one, your database will never impact it. So these are like non-mandatory one. So I killed, still my database will be up and running and still I'm able to connect to my database. So those are like your non-mandatory one. All right. So any more questions or queries you want to clarify it on the course curriculum or course content or anything you want to discuss? Right. So I'm gonna stop it for today. We'll continue our regular classes starting from the Monday, where we'll start from the scratch and we'll try to understand in depth of each and every concept, whatever we explained. But yeah, yesterday and today are just a high level overview how this database course and content and the timing and the registration process. So I just wanted to give a brief demo or idea how this looks like. All right.
Like, actually, I'm already working as a Oracle DBA.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm already facing a lot of issues, real-time issues in my environment. So
Right.
in that case, just like you're teaching all these topics at the base level, right? So, but at the advanced level, we need some other information like you have explained SG related topic, right? So sometimes we face issues at the SG level, like the SG memory is not sufficient, and we have to face the performance issue like that. So
That's
sometimes,
all covered here. Like whatever memory issues will be covered. We're going to explain about how you can set your SGA, how you can set your PGA, how you can increase your memory component. These are like not the advanced topics. These are the basics you need to understand how SGA works, how PGA works, how can I increase my memory, and then before increasing my memory, how can I tune my database? Is your database having automatic memory management enabled? Once your automatic memory management is enabled, you don't need to worry. Your database is smart enough to handle those memory issues. In case of if your automatic memory management is not enabled, that's where you will get into issue. You need to manually sit and assign the memory component, increasing the memory and all.
yeah,
Again, these are the basics.
sometimes we have to decide. So when we should go for the memory increase at the physical level, and what are the scenarios we can ask application to provide the physical memory RAM, or
Right,
sometimes application team asks us, okay, do some troubleshooting from your end and
right,
fix some performance issues at the database level. No need to increase the physical RAM every time like that. So these type of scenarios I want to clear from this class.
right, right. Definitely. So those all will be covered here.
Okay.
Sir,
All right. Any more questions, guys?
sir,
So the new link will come in the WhatsApp
sir,
group, correct?
Right. That's correct.
sir, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we know one of the person before the one of the person is asking about some RAM changing all this stuff is actually this part is comes under the performance tuning part, right?
Right.
This, I think, in the normal database explanation part, you said that all those stuff will not be covered in this class, right, sir? But
Again, don't
uh,
jump on to the any conclusion. Like there are a lot of things to cover. So whatever DBA, if you're working as a DBA, any issues, everything will be covered over here.
yeah, but that person is asking me real-time experience, real-time issues, exactly the performance-related part.
It's not
But
a
you are saying
performance related part. It is something
huh.
you are tuning your
That person
database.
is
No,
asking
Ramesh,
about.
one second. You forgot about that question. Do you have any questions? Again, there are a
No,
lot
no,
of
my
things
question,
to
sir,
talk.
sir. My question is also like that. I am also worked in Oracle Corporation, 13 years of experience.
All right. Any more questions, guys? So far, whatever we covered. Right. So let's connect on Monday. If no questions, again, feel free to reach out to me on my WhatsApp or cell or via email. I'm happy to connect with you and then clarify if you have any questions or queries. Particularly, again, I know before you enroll for this course, you might be having a lot of questions like, is it a worth? Is it you know uh, going to be helpful for my future? Any of those sort of questions or confusion, if you have it, feel free to ask here, or you can reach out to me on my cell phone or WhatsApp. You want to talk to me personally. So because like you have to be clear about your goals or your future and then enroll for this course. I don't want anyone to blindly listening my
Yeah,
words
yeah.
and registering for this course.
Technically, you are in the right path, Malik.
Yeah,
Whatever the topic comes, then you can explain the appropriate, related troubleshooting issues. We
right,
cannot just talk about the troubleshooting topic at the beginning,
right,
unless
that's right,
until you understand the architecture and the complete clear picture on the topic.
right,
Then
right,
end of the topic that what kind of issues may raise this related to memory or process or a backup.
right,
So the relevant topic and relevant troubleshooting question will cover. Correct?
right. That's correct. Not only
Yeah.
that relevant, even you are working for your organization and you will get a issue now, like you are doing a export and import and
Yeah.
you got some issues. You feel free to take a screenshot, post it in our WhatsApp group. I'll connect with you so that
Definitely.
we'll
Yeah.
discuss
Yeah. Yeah.
together. That's
Makes
how
sense.
everyone will grow and then everyone will learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what is
Difficult
Malik,
for everything.
yeah, go ahead.
Malik, what is the good time to connect to you in
Yeah,
personally?
ping me on my WhatsApp number. I'll connect with you anytime.
Okay,
Hi,
sure.
Malik. These recorded session will be uploaded on the same day itself, right?
Right,
Or the
that's
Google
correct.
Drive.
That's correct.
And how are the openings currently for Oracle DBA? Because I'm not seeing much openings. Like I'm having 3 years
Right
of
now,
experience.
not only Oracle, from last few quarters, like 3-4 quarters, because of that, uh, uh, because of the US, there's high inflation and there's a slowdown in the market.
Mm-hmm.
That is not only for DBS, it's
Very,
for all
very
the
bad. The
Correct.
market is very bad in US. I live in
yeah,
California, and last 3 quarters, 4 quarters, the budget's not released.
right.
There are no new openings coming up,
Yeah,
and
Uh-huh.
most of the openings are closing within the internal team, and they are moving from one department to other department within the same company. So not Oracle, anything like very, very pretty slow. Everybody talking about AI and everything, like a buzzword, and like a big data, how they talked about 2 years back, 4 years back, same thing. Like I think election time and all, maybe within 2-3 months, maybe settle down.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Let's break it up.
Thank you.
We'll connect
Thank
on
you.
Monday. Thank you all.
Thank you, Malik. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.